But I remember when the Committee of University Principals said to us, okay, we've carried SASCO now for a long time. You need to go, you must now either close down or you must go on your own. And I said, well, there's no way we're closing down, you know, so we will then go on our own way.
We depended fully on universities at the time. So with budget, raise costs, and this institution will give us a certain fee based on the number of students. And then also then the clubs would affiliate, and then, you know, we'll then get a bit of that. Then the National Sports Federations would also, I mean, student sports associations would also then depend on that to make money on those affiliations.
There was a lot of, you know, political tension in as far as the USSA structure is concerned, in terms of where the directions of USSA needs to go. You know, whether should we keep on having a student president, or should we make it an open president? So there was those discussions.
So for me, that is a low moment in that was a low moment in university sport. But there were a number of important developments within university sport. In 2008, SASCOC decided that basically university sport should no longer exist. Well, those discussions happened before, because the name change happened in 2008. Yes? Yeah. So the discussions on whether students should continue to take up the presidency leadership or not, it wasn't a long-term discussion. And remember, I came in when we had student presidency. And it wasn't like somebody sat in a corner and said, this is not going to happen. And I, at the time, was already a full-time administrator at University of the Western Cape. But because I had served in different levels, you know, SRCs, sports councils, being a young student leader myself, I understood the importance of carefully dealing with this matter. But I want to say that I was for the position that a full-time administrator should take the responsibility, but that we should come to an amicable agreement where you don't lose the voice of the student. And it was a difficult time, because I had gotten along and worked very well with all of the student leaders. But I also understood that the space of university sport had become a lot more demanding in terms of the time that it required, etc. And the reality was that our students did not have the time to fully administer sport. Let me make an example. At any given time during a week, there would be 3 to 4 meetings happening. The student is supposed to be in class. So we built a lot of scenarios, but we couldn't get away from the scenario that the student voice was important. That we couldn't get away from.
A lot of discussions followed, you know, whether we should have a student as an administrator or as the president, or we should have an administrator. The matter then eventually went to an AGM where it was proposed, or a new amendment to the Constitution was proposed, that the position of the president will now become an open position for free election.
To be honest with you, Sasco, I was very much against for us to lead. I mean, for administrators to lead USSA. But I was told that no, it was because of the mass integrity of the structure. They must they're going to get sponsors. I'm not sure whether they did. I'm one of the people who were very, very much against. I was happy with students leading USSA. For that matter, it's their sport. We as administrators, because indirectly now we wanted to lead again from the front. You know, why don't you allow students? Those are the people that were grooming, and they were doing an excellent job. Now, all of a sudden, now we got tired and frustrated to be led by students. It takes me back now, you know, with those, we were fighting. We were really fighting. So I was one person who was totally against that, you know. But like I said, I felt defeated and I had to at some stage, and that was towards my exit. I said, if this is what they want, let that be.
The changing of the name, we believed at the time, up until I think 3 or 4 years after I had left, or 4 terms after I had left, SASU was led by students. The president of SASU had to be a student. It was even in the constitution, because we felt it was our organization as students, and there is nobody who can discuss anything student related without students being in it. You know, it was not going to happen without us. We even had a slogan, you know, and so that was our thinking, that was our mindset. So radical as we were with who must lead SASU, it also happened at the time that we needed to move into SASCOC. So yes, we were there were talks, and we later on obviously appreciated that as an affiliate to FASU, you know, we also needed to realign ourselves. But at the time, we were adamant we are the South African Student Sports Union, you know, and we wanted nothing else. We felt the university in USA was, and also you would appreciate the higher education setup at the time. There were traditional universities, there were technicons, and there were colleges. So we felt the university, the university in USA sort of sidelines these other. This was before there was a transition in the higher education sector, when then there were mergers and so forth. So that was our stance, that we can't just be university. And you must remember at the time, sports was mainly funded, the universities that were mainly funded were the previously white universities. So we were quite resistant to that, and we were not apologetic about that. We didn't mince our words. We didn't want to be USA. We wanted to be SASU.
In terms of why we changed the name, SASCOC also said, you know, because they were very strong. There was a lot of pressure from SASCOC at that stage, and even from government at that stage, that SASU and the College Sport Association, that we should, and the Disability Sports Association, that we should all be formed and housed in SASCOC. But the universities said, no ways, that's not going to happen. We want our autonomy to decide on the student matters. Even if it will take us to take a bus to SASCOC to go and toy there, but that is not negotiable.
And so there was the Athletic South Africa saga. It was in, I'm not sure whether it was Kazan or Gwangju in South Korea. But at one of those, Athletic South Africa took a decision that student athletes may not participate in the Universiade. And I was adamant that we were going, and we're taking our student athletes along, and we'll face the music when we come back. But there was no comeback.
I was part of the initial process. In fact, the first hurdle was to form part of SASCOC. And I can tell you we were resistant, because at the time we felt we did not want to lose our identity as university sports. We were by no means a national federation. If anything, we are a multi-coded national federation, if you get what I mean. So we felt at the time when SASCOC, there were talks of SASCOC, the Olympic Committee was transformed into what we know now as SASCOC, and from the National Olympic Committee of South Africa, NOCSA, yes. And we were resistant at the time. We were also facing elections, SASU, and that's where I got elected as the president. But we were very, very resistant, and we wanted to join SASCOC in our own terms. And as you would imagine, the old guards in SASCOC were also just as resistant. So there was quite a lot of resistance.
Out of the travels that we did, we would have FASU conferences, and then we would have where we would be required to write a paper and all that. Then we made a proposal to say, because what we wanted to influence FASU to be and FASU was the structure, how USSA is structured. It's a student sport structure, and therefore it needed to be led by students. So we started introducing that. It got resistance, I won't lie, but we never backed down, such that by the time I was out of USSA, I was one of the first people that were elected into the FASU structure to represent students back then. I still have the photos where we were standing there. I'm wearing a Springboks jersey, and Diakonda from Senegal is next to me as well. So we got into that structure. It was called the student committee at the time, if I'm correct, where then, now even in the establishment of this structure, there are no clear terms of reference. We had to work and define those, assist the FASU office to say this is what we want to see. But ultimately, the key goal and the baton that we left to those that came after us was to make it a point that it's not a committee of FASU, but it becomes integrated into the FASU Executive Committee. We did that as well with FASU. We have a FASU constitution that recognizes students now. If you don't elect a student, then you've not concluded your AGM.